I didn't just lose $2.7 million that night. I lost the certainty that I knew who my wife really was, and I lost the brother I thought I had for 58 years. I found out I was broke, divorced, and betrayed all in the same hour. The text from my bank came first, followed by my wife's goodbye note, and the cruel truth would come later. The digital receipt glowed coldly on my screen at 3:47 a.m. A single transaction. 33 years of disciplined saving, gone. My retirement fund, our dream house in Vermont, the charitable foundation I'd planned to establish, everything transferred to an account I'd never seen before. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone to call Karen. She wasn't beside me in bed, hadn't been for the past 3 nights. Working late, she'd said. I'd believed her, like I'd believed everything for 25 years of marriage. Her voice was alert when she answered, not sleep-groggy as it should have been at that hour. I heard muffled male laughter in the background before it suddenly went silent. The money's gone, Karen, all of it, every cent we've saved. A pause hung between us. Not shock, not confusion, just calculation. Well, Thomas, she finally said, her voice unnaturally steady. I suppose this means you've checked the accounts. Her words hit me like a physical blow. Not, what happened? Or, oh my God, but acknowledgement, as if she'd been waiting for this call. I'll be home in an hour, she continued, crisp and businesslike. We should talk about this face to face. When she arrived, she didn't rush to embrace me. She set her designer purse on our marble kitchen counter, the counter I'd installed myself when we couldn't afford contractors, and looked at me with eyes I suddenly didn't recognize. I can't do this anymore, Thomas, she said, slipping off her wedding ring and placing it beside her purse with a soft clink. I can't stay with someone who threw away our future. I stared at her, disbelief crawling through me like ice water. Threw away? Karen, I was hacked. Someone stole everything. You've always been careless with digital security, she interrupted, her voice cutting. I warned you about using the same passwords, about conducting business on unsecured networks during your trips. She sighed with practiced disappointment. This was inevitable. The woman I'd built a life with was standing in our kitchen, blaming me for my own victimization. My mind raced back through countless moments, the investment discussions she'd suddenly taken interest in last year, her unexplained weekend trips, the hushed phone conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. I need to start over, she continued, her eyes darting around our home, assessing. I'll be taking the Cartier collection and the antiques from your grandmother. I at least deserve something to rebuild with. I sat motionless as she moved methodically through our home, collecting our most valuable possessions like she was shopping. When she reached for my mother's sapphire brooch, the only heirloom I had left, something inside me stirred. Did you do this, Karen? Her shoulders stiffened momentarily before she turned, her expression perfectly calibrated between offense and pity. This is exactly why I can't stay, Thomas. Your paranoia, your accusations whenever something goes wrong. She shook her head. Maybe call Daniel. Your brother's always been good with computer security. He might be able to help trace what happened. Daniel, my identical twin. The thought of him sent an uncomfortable shiver down my spine. He'd been unusually interested in my financial matters lately, had visited 3 times in the past month after barely showing up for years. Karen left with 4 suitcases and a promise from her attorney. I stood in our emptied home, surrounded by the debris of my life, unable to shake the feeling that I wasn't just robbed, I was hunted. What I didn't know then was that a forgotten video conferencing tool was still running on my laptop upstairs, silently witnessing everything. And what I couldn't have imagined was that this devastating night would eventually lead to the most satisfying moment of retribution I would ever experience. But first I had to survive being the fool who lost everything. The first week after Karen left felt like drowning in slow motion. I'd wake up reaching for her warmth beside me, only to find cold sheets and the memory of her calculated departure. My financial advisor confirmed what I already knew. The accounts were indeed emptied through a series of perfectly executed transfers that somehow bypassed all security protocols. Whoever did this had intimate knowledge of your accounts, Mr. Anderson, he explained, his voice tinged with professional suspicion. They knew exactly when to initiate the transactions to avoid triggering our automated security systems. They had all your personal information, passwords, even the answers to your security questions. I sat in his office, a shell of the respected international executive I'd been just days before. My clothes, once perfectly tailored, now hung loosely on my frame. I hadn't eaten a proper meal since that night. "Have you spoken with the police?" he asked carefully. I nodded, a bitter taste filling my mouth. They took my statement but made it clear that these cases are rarely resolved. The money was routed through 6 different countries within hours. By now I couldn't finish the sentence. What haunted me most weren't the vanished millions, but the precision of it all, the timing, the execution, the way Karen had prepared her exit, as though reading from a script written long ago. Back at the house, too large now for just one broken man, I found myself drawn to small inconsistencies that had been invisible before. Karen's home office desk drawer, always locked, now hung slightly open. Inside, I found nothing but a single USB drive labeled with my initials. Empty. That evening, as I nursed a glass of the only expensive whiskey Karen hadn't taken, my phone buzzed with a text from my colleague, Jennifer. "Thomas, you didn't log in for the Yokohama presentation. Everything okay? Team is worried." The Yokohama presentation, one of our biggest potential clients. I'd completely forgotten. I called Jennifer immediately, my voice cracking as I tried to explain my situation without completely falling apart. "I'm sorry. I should have notified the team," I began. "Thomas," she interrupted gently, "everyone knows something's wrong. You haven't been yourself for weeks, even before, whatever this is. When was the last time you took a sick day in 15 years with the company?" Her kindness pierced through my fog of self-recrimination. I found myself telling her everything: the missing money, Karen's cold departure, the growing suspicion that this wasn't random. "You mentioned your brother visited recently?" Jennifer asked after listening patiently. "Daniel, right? The twin?" "Yes," I sighed. Karen suggested I call him for help with tracing the hack, but I can't shake this feeling, Jennifer. The timing of his visits, always when I was about to leave for business trips. The way he and Karen seemed to have inside jokes I wasn't part of. I could hear Jennifer typing on her keyboard. "Has Daniel had financial troubles recently?" The question struck me like lightning. "How did you know?" "Just a hunch," she replied carefully. "Listen, Thomas, I need to check something on our server. Can you come into the office tomorrow? Not for work, just to talk." That night, sleep evaded me entirely. Instead, I found myself in Daniel's old room, the one we'd kept for him since our parents passed away. I'd offered him the guest room during his recent visits, but he'd insisted on staying in his old space. Now I understood why. Methodically, I inspected every inch of the room. Under the bed, I discovered a crumpled receipt from an expensive restaurant downtown, dated 3 months ago when Daniel had claimed to be in Boston. The table had been for 2. In the closet, tucked in the pocket of a jacket he'd left behind, I found a small notepad. Most pages were blank, but one contained what looked like a practice of my signature. My phone rang, startling me. Unknown number. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Mr. Anderson," a formal voice responded. "This is Westlake Bank's fraud department. We've detected unusual activity on your remaining equity line of credit. Someone attempted to withdraw the maximum amount this afternoon using your identification and in-person signature. Protocol requires us to verify this with you directly." My blood ran cold. "I haven't been to any bank today." A pause. "Sir, we have you on security camera at our downtown branch at 2:17 p.m. You were wearing a grey suit and blue tie." I hadn't left the house in 3 days, but Daniel owned the same grey suit. "That wasn't me," I whispered, pieces falling into horrifying place. "That was my identical twin brother." Sleep-deprived and overwhelmed, I drove to Jennifer's house that night rather than waiting until morning. She answered the door in pajamas, concerned by my disheveled appearance. "Thomas, you look terrible," she said, ushering me inside. "It's Daniel and Karen," I said, my voice hollow. "They're in this together. They've been planning this for months, maybe longer, but I don't understand. Why now? After 25 years of marriage, why would Karen do this?" Jennifer's expression shifted subtly. "I think I might have found something that answers that," she said quietly. "When you mentioned the timing, I remembered something odd about the company server." She opened her laptop and turned it toward me. "That conference call you had with Tokyo 3 weeks ago, the one that ran until 3 a.m., the software never fully disconnected. On her screen was a video file, my office at home. The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m., just minutes after I'd discovered the empty accounts. It kept recording, Thomas, for hours. and it uploaded everything to the company's shared folder. With trembling hands, I pressed play, unprepared for how the truth would finally break whatever was left of my heart, but also unaware that within this accidental recording lay the seeds of my redemption. I wasn't prepared for what I saw on that video. No man could be. The recording began after I'd left to discover the theft. Karen entered, phone pressed against her ear, smiling brightly. "It worked," she whispered. "He just called. Complete shock, just like we planned." A pause. "No, Daniel. He doesn't suspect anything. He thinks it was a hack." My twin brother's name in my wife's mouth sent physical pain through my chest. "I told him to call you for help," she continued, laughing softly. God, his face when I took the ring off, almost felt sorry for him. Another pause. "No, I've got the list. Taking everything that can't be traced, meeting you at the airport tomorrow." I watched as the woman I'd loved for 25 years methodically collected our valuables while describing to my brother how devastated I'd looked. They detailed their plan with cold precision, how Daniel had used his identical appearance to access my accounts in person, how they'd been planning this for nearly 2 years. "The timing was perfect," she said, admiring my grandmother's emerald necklace before pocketing it. "With his company teetering on that merger and his health scare last month, everyone will just assume he had a breakdown. Finance guy loses everything. Happens all the time. My health scare. The chest pains that had sent me to the hospital. The week I'd spent recovering while Karen managed everything for me. By the video's end, I knew exactly how they'd executed every step. Daniel had gathered my financial information during his visits. Karen had systematically copied my passwords. They'd created elaborate false identities to receive the funds. "No one checks faces that carefully when the ID and passwords match," Daniel boasted on a return call. Being his identical twin was just insurance. "Thomas," Jennifer said gently when the video ended, "I've downloaded copies to 3 secure locations. This is evidence." I pulled away, standing abruptly. Evidence of what? That my wife and brother are better actors than I imagined. That everything, our entire marriage, our brotherhood, was just preparation for this. "No," Jennifer insisted. "Evidence of fraud. Multiple federal crimes. We need to go to the FBI." But I couldn't process her words. My mind kept replaying Christmas dinners where Karen and Daniel shared private glances, neighbors mentioning seeing my car during business trips when I was thousands of miles away. For the next 3 days, I barely functioned. I didn't eat or sleep, just sat replaying every moment of my marriage, searching for when love had transformed into betrayal. On the 4th day, the bank called. Daniel had attempted to access my emergency account, the only one still containing money. They'd placed a security hold after recognizing him from their fraud alert. Something inside me shifted. The crushing weight began transforming into something harder, colder, more focused. I finally called my company's legal counsel, a brilliant, ruthless woman named Elaine. I forwarded her the video without explanation. 20 minutes later, "My office, 1 hour. Bring everything you have." With Elaine's guidance, I built a case. We contacted the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, filed injunctions against every traceable account. The video evidence was damning, Karen and Daniel explicitly detailing their plan. But then came a text from an unknown number, a photo of Karen and Daniel on a beach, her head on his shoulder. Beneath it, "Too late. The money's gone. We're already gone." That night, I hit rock bottom. Alone in our bedroom, I found myself staring at the bottle of sleeping pills from my health scare. 30 pills, enough to end everything. I twisted off the cap, poured them into my palm, and stared for what felt like hours. Then my phone rang. "Jennifer." "Thomas, where are you? I've been calling for hours." Something in her voice pulled me back. I set the pills aside. "I'm home," I managed, barely recognizing my own voice. "Listen carefully," she said urgently. "I've been working with our IT team. The money isn't gone, not all of it. They made a mistake." "What do you mean?" "Your retirement account, the biggest one. The transfer was flagged and held by international compliance. The funds are frozen in limbo. They don't know it yet." A tiny spark ignited somewhere deep inside me. "But that's not all," Jennifer continued. "I found something else in the video, something they said when they thought no one was listening. I know where they're going, Thomas, and I know how to get there first." As Jennifer explained her discovery, that spark grew into something stronger, not just anger or desire for justice, but calculated, focused resolve. My career had been built on seeing 10 steps ahead in complex negotiations. Now I would use those same skills for a different kind of negotiation. Karen and Daniel believed they'd broken me. They thought they were facing a devastated, defeated man. They had no idea what was coming. Jennifer's discovery changed everything. My largest retirement account, $1.4 million, was suspended in digital limbo due to an automatic regulatory flag. The system had detected unusual patterns and frozen the transfer. They made a critical mistake, Jennifer explained. They mentioned San Barthélemy repeatedly in the video, not as a vacation spot, as a destination. The banking haven, I murmured. No extradition treaty. They also mentioned Villa Emeraude. She turned her laptop toward me, displaying a stunning cliffside mansion. 3-month lease beginning next week, paid through a shell corporation established 6 months ago. For the first time since the theft, I felt a flicker of control returning. They think they've won. They've mapped every step, except being discovered before they even arrive. Working through the night, we constructed a plan leveraging every professional connection I'd built over 35 years. By morning, Elaine had assembled international banking attorneys and forensic accountants. The frozen funds provided legal grounds for emergency injunctions. We can't get all of it back, Elaine cautioned. Some has been converted to untraceable assets, but we can potentially recover 60%. That's not enough, I said quietly. I want them to experience what I experienced. The moment when everything they thought was secure suddenly disintegrates. Over the next 5 days, I executed my parallel strategy. First, I contacted Claude Bisset, a former client and owner of the largest property management company in Saint Barthélemy. Within hours, Villa Emeraude had experienced an unfortunate booking error. Their reservation was upgraded to Villa Soleil, an even more exclusive property on the opposite side of the island. Next, I reached out to Philippe Laurent at Banque Internationale. 20 years earlier, I'd helped his institution navigate a regulatory crisis. Now he was eager to return the favor by establishing the discrete accounts I required. The most difficult piece was coordinating with the FBI's International Finance Division. Agent Calloway was initially hesitant until seeing the video evidence. This isn't just a domestic dispute, Elaine emphasized. It's a sophisticated, premeditated crime crossing multiple jurisdictions. With the Bureau's support, we implemented the final phase. I withdrew completely from public view, no social media, no email responses. To all appearances, I was a broken man in hiding. Meanwhile, Jennifer tracked Karen and Daniel through their arrogant social media updates. Their connecting flight to San Barthélemy was scheduled for Tuesday. I arrived on Monday. Villa Soleil was everything Claude promised, stunning architecture clinging to the cliffside with absolute privacy. I spent the first day making specific arrangements with the property manager. The second day was devoted to final preparations with Philippe's banking team. On Wednesday evening, I watched the famous sunset from the villa's terrace. My phone buzzed with a text from Claude. Our mutual friends have arrived and are being transferred to the property now. 30 minutes later, I heard the electric gate open. Karen's light laugh, then Daniel's deeper response carried up the driveway. I remained still, waiting in the shadows. The front door opened. I heard their exclamations of delight. My God, it's even better than the photos, Karen gushed. Worth every penny of Thomas's money, Daniel replied, followed by shared laughter. I stepped into the doorway. I'm glad you approve of my investment. Pure shock froze on their faces. Karen dropped her champagne glass. It shattered on the marble floor, punctuating the silence. Thomas, Daniel finally managed, his face, my face, draining of color. How did you find you? The video conference software recorded everything the night you emptied my accounts. Every word, every plan, every detail of your scheme. Karen recovered first. Whatever you think you have, it won't hold up. We're outside U.S. jurisdiction now. I smiled thinly. That's where you're wrong. Agent Calloway from the FBI arrived this morning. The local police are quite cooperative, given the comprehensive evidence we've provided. I pressed a button on my phone. The villa's speakers activated, playing Karen's voice. He doesn't suspect anything. He thinks it was a hack. Daniel lunged toward the door, but I pressed another button. Electronic locks engaged with a solid click. You planned everything so carefully, I continued, but you missed something crucial. This villa isn't just a rental. I financed its construction 7 years ago. You're not in your escape haven. You're in my territory now. Karen's composure cracked. What do you want? Justice would be the obvious answer, I replied. but I've prepared something more fitting, something that mirrors what you did to me." I removed an envelope from my jacket and placed it on the table. "These are the terms of your new reality. Read them carefully. You have exactly 1 hour to decide before the authorities arrive." Their expressions as they realized the true nature of my plan confirmed what I already knew. Sometimes, the most devastating revenge isn't taking everything from someone. It's letting them choose how much they're willing to sacrifice to keep anything at all. The hour I gave Karen and Daniel was the longest of my life. I stood on the terrace watching the moonlight dance across the Caribbean while they huddled inside, whispering frantically over my documents. Their world was collapsing exactly as mine had, suddenly and by the hand of someone trusted. My terms were simple: face prosecution for identity theft, fraud, and money laundering, or accept my alternative: complete financial transparency, return of all traceable assets, and public acknowledgement of their actions. The terrace door slid open. Karen stepped out. Her confident facade crumbled. "You could have just had us arrested immediately," she said quietly. "Why give us a choice at all?" I studied the woman I'd once built my life around, searching for any remnant of the person I thought I knew. "Because choices reveal character," I replied. "I wanted to see what you would choose when everything was at stake, just like I had to choose whether to keep living when you left me with nothing." Her eyes widened at the revelation about how close I'd come to ending it all. "The authorities are waiting for my call," I continued. "You have 15 minutes left." When time expired, they both emerged. Daniel couldn't meet my eyes, but Karen held my gaze. "We accept your terms," she said, barely above a whisper. What followed was a meticulously orchestrated dismantling of their plan. With Agent Calloway supervising, they signed confessions detailing every aspect of their scheme. Philippe's banking team traced and froze the remaining funds. By dawn, I had recovered nearly 70% of what was stolen. "We'll need your testimony for the restitution hearings," Calloway informed me, as his team escorted Karen and Daniel away. "But with these confessions and the video evidence, they won't serve jail time as long as they comply with all conditions." I watched as my former wife and twin brother were led away. Neither looked back. That afternoon, Jennifer messaged, "It's done. The company board just reviewed everything. Your position is secure, and they've approved a special compensation package to help with recovery." 3 days later, as my flight approached the U.S. coastline, I reflected on what had happened. I'd lost my wife, my brother, and a third of my life's savings. But what I'd gained was harder to quantify: clarity about what truly mattered, who I could really trust, and my own capacity for resilience. The weeks following were filled with legal proceedings, financial reorganization, and explaining to friends and family what had happened. I chose complete honesty without embellishment or self-pity. Some were uncomfortable with the rawness of betrayal, but most responded with unexpected support. 6 months later, I stood in the empty house that Karen and I had shared, preparing it for sale. Each room held memories that no longer seemed mine, artifacts from someone else's life. As I packed the last boxes, the doorbell rang. Jennifer stood on the porch with a small package. "Final paperwork from Elaine," she explained. "The restitution payments begin next month." I set the package aside. "I want to redirect those payments." "To where?" "A foundation for victims of identity theft and financial fraud," I replied. "People who don't have the resources or connections I had." Her expression softened. "That's not what most people would do." "Most people haven't learned what I have," I said, looking around at the empty house. "Money can be replaced. Time cannot. And carrying anger is far more costly than losing wealth." We walked through the silent rooms one last time. In the kitchen, where Karen had returned her wedding ring that night, I paused. "You know what's strange? I don't hate them anymore. I expected to feel satisfaction watching them face consequences, but mostly I felt sadness. For all of us." Jennifer's hand found mine, warm and steady. "What will you do now?" I thought about the international position I'd been offered, a fresh start in a new country, about the manuscript I'd begun writing, about the new connections I'd formed, free from the shadow of betrayal. "Live," I answered simply, with an awareness I didn't have before. We're all vulnerable to betrayal, but we're also capable of rebuilding stronger than before. As we locked the door for the final time, I realized the most valuable thing I'd recovered wasn't measured in dollars. It was understanding that true wealth isn't what you possess, it's what possesses you. I had chosen not to be possessed by bitterness or defined by betrayal, but to be guided by the wisdom that comes only from standing in the ruins of what you thought was permanent and discovering you are still whole. If my story has touched something in you, perhaps reminded you of your own resilience or shown that even the deepest wounds can become sources of strength, I would be truly grateful if you would like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because while my journey through betrayal and recovery has ended, sharing what I've learned has only just begun.